Hello, welcome to Mark Out Moments as we present to you another edition of That Boy Was Busy, episode 3. And we're going to go with one of the most outrageous wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. That would be Bruiser Brody. Some people call him King Kong Brody. And you'll get that in this episode. Depending on where he's performing, he'll either be Bruiser or King Kong. But the real life Frank Goodish made a huge career for himself as Bruiser Brody all over the world. I mean, he wasn't just a wrestler; he was an attraction. Every time that I saw him in person, to me, it stood out. It was a huge event, and so we're looking at today. We're going to look at March of 1979. He only wrestled 15 times that month, only 15 times. But he was putting in a lot of miles. This is a cool picture here. You got Bronco Lubitsch. You got Bronco Lubitsch trying to get him to quit choking the spoiler. That's Don Jardine, the spoiler. Just really good stuff. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. I want to thank Cage Match. CageMatch.net for providing these results, giving us a snapshot of what it was like for these wrestlers, their travels. All right, let's start out with March 4th, 1979 for the NWA Texas Brass Knucks title. This is a battle royal for the vacant belt. Maniac Mark Lewin defeats Bruiser Brody and David Von Erich and Great Goliath and T. John Thibodeau and the Spoiler. It took 7 minutes and 28 seconds. On that same card from the Sportatorium, Bruiser Brody versus the Spoiler goes to a double count out at 2 minutes and 39 seconds. So the reason they did double duty, whenever they would do a battle royal, sometimes you would set the rest of the card by the order that the participants were eliminated. So Mark Lewin won the thing. Bruiser Brody was the last one that went out. The Spoiler was the first one that went out. So Bruiser Brody versus the Spoiler. Then you would have probably had Mark Lewin against T. John Thibodeau. You probably had David Von Erich versus Great Goliath. I'm guessing that's how that went down that night. On March the 4th, Wrestling at the Chase, St. Louis, Missouri. Bob Sweetan and King Kong Brody defeated Brian St. John and Ron Starr. On the 8th of March, from the Memorial Hall in Kansas City, Kansas, Andre the Giant and Bruiser Brody defeated Bob Sweetan and Siegfried Stank. Siegfried Stank. Could have been Stanky, but I'm going to go Stank. We're going to put a little stank on it. March the 9th, 1979, King Kong Brody defeats Brian St. John from the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, Missouri. Then we're going to go to the 10th of March. King Kong Brody defeats Pepper Gomez. This is an AWA event in the International Amphitheater, Chicago, Illinois. Then we're going to go to the 11th of March. A 2-on-1 handicap as King Kong Brody defeats Steve Hall and Woody Wilson. This took place as NWA St. Louis's Wrestling at the Chase TV show at the Chase Park Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. On the 12th, we have the NWA American Tag Team titles as Bruiser Brody and Harley Race defeat the champions Mark Lewin and the Spoiler by disqualification at the 8-minute and 21 mark. This was for the NWA Big Time Wrestling event at the Will Rogers Memorial Center in Fort Worth, Texas. That would have been the television taping for Saturday Night Wrestling on KTVT, Channel 11, one of the first super stations. Then we have on the 15th of March, we got Bob Sweetan defeating Bruiser Brody by disqualification. This is in the Memorial Hall in Kansas City, Kansas. On the 18th, a 2-on-1 handicap tag as King Kong Brody defeats Pierre Bonnet and Randy Owls. This is at the Wrestling in the Chase TV show, Chase Park Plaza Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. On the 18th, same day, it's a double shot. At the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, Bruiser Brody defeats the Great Goliath. Then on the 19th, from the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum in Fort Worth, Texas, the Spoiler defeats Bruiser Brody by countout. On the 20th, best 2 out of 3 falls, Bruiser Brody defeats Karl von Krupp, also better known as Killer Karl Krupp. 2 falls to 1, 15 minutes for the NWA Big Time Wrestling event, the Beaumont Civic Center in Beaumont, Texas. On the 22nd of March, Bruiser Brody defeats Siegfried Stanke. That's a CSW event in the Memorial Hall in Kansas City, Kansas. Then on the 23rd, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, best 2 out of 3 falls, Harley Race defeats King Kong Brody 2 falls to 1, 20 minutes, 37 seconds in the Kill Auditorium in St. Louis, Missouri. And that's how Bruiser Brody finished up his March. That's quite a schedule. I mean, he was going from South Texas to North Texas. He was going all over Missouri. That was his loop for the month of March. Anyway, that's just a thumbnail of the crazy schedule that Bruiser Brody kept. I thought it was interesting that 2 weeks in a row for the Wrestling at the Chase TV show that they put King Kong Brody in 2-on-1 handicap matches. And of course, those were enhancement talents. And that was just because King Kong Brody was running roughshod over the territory. All right. Thank you for joining me for this quick snapshot look at Bruiser Brody's March of 1979 here on the Markout Moments YouTube channel. I'm Pondwater Dave. You've been watching That Boy Was Busy. Join me next time. Thank you, everybody.